we are definitely, not at the, we're at the last session of the day, by far not the least. We're excited for this session. Want to introduce you to, so we have three folks on this panel: Ani Kelkar from McKinsey, Jasmine Lombardi from Locus Robotics, and Marton, your last name I'm going to butcher. Sziraczki from Waymo. So they're going to talk a little bit about robotics, automation, et cetera. And without further ado, I will turn over to Ani, who will be moderating this session.
Thanks, Patrick, and thanks for having three people who aren't Tuck graduates to kind of close out the ceremony. So we spoke a lot about primarily sort of Gen AI, large language models across a swath of different industries. We wanted to pull the thread forward to take a take on a new industry, logistics and mobility, but also shift away from LLMs, ChatGPT, and talk about AI in a very different context. So we'll be talking a lot about robots in warehouses and what Locus is doing there, as well as self-driving cars in San Francisco, Phoenix, Austin, and eventually in Upper Valley, New Hampshire. So to get the group going, we have a couple of videos to kind of tell you what Waymo does and tell you what Locus Robotics do. And so if we get those queued up without hopefully any glitches.
This is the automated fulfillment center at its best. Product and material move efficiently throughout the entire warehouse on any level. High volume, complex orders get out the door quickly and accurately, even during peak. Associates work collaboratively with autonomous mobile robots, increasing productivity while easing the labor gap. This is Locus Robotics, enterprise productivity, intelligent execution. Locus Robotics' enterprise-scale multi-bot solution delivers complete warehouse optimization from receiving to picking to shipping. Locus increases throughput quickly and cost-effectively to meet your customer requirements and expectations. The robots are powered by Locus One, our intelligent, data-driven warehouse execution platform. Locus One directs the Locus fleet of bots to move efficiently throughout the warehouse to not only pick and stock products, but also transport materials. Locus bots are versatile, safe, navigate intelligently, and are built to support a full range of payloads for multiple use cases, ranging from picking to put away, to case picking and pallet movement. Locus Origin is agile and quick. It's designed for collaborative, high-volume order fulfillment, such as each and batch picking, put away and replenishment, and stocking. The industrial-strength Locus Vector is built for high-productivity material handling and logistics applications. This includes point-to-point fulfillment, put away, and transport. Vector can maneuver in tight spaces with its omnidirectional navigation. And the heavyweight, Locus Max, is used for transporting and industrial and material handling applications. Max is ideal for case picking, pallet building, and point-to-point transport, moving heavy materials smoothly and nimbly throughout your warehouse. Locus bots work seamlessly with each other to complete a variety of tasks.
If you've never seen these are really cool, and I've had the privilege of being in warehouses where you kind of feel partly in the Jetson era, and we have the privilege of having Jasmine, who's the Chief Customer Officer of Locus Robotics, and has charted their journey from 2016 to today. So we'll love to hear from her about what AI and automation was pre-ChatGPT, and kind of the enablement of e-commerce that Locus and other technology providers have made. Maybe we'll switch to the Waymo video.
So much emerging technology is just a show, so one can be forgiven for not being able to distinguish fact from fiction. Take this car, for example. Can it drive autonomously or not?
The short answer is absolutely.
That was Shweta Shrivastava, Senior Product Lead for Driving Behavior at Waymo.
What you're looking at is the Waymo driver in action. Adapted for a variety of vehicle platforms, it is the most advanced, fully autonomous driving technology in the world today.
What you notice pretty quickly is that these aren't normal vehicles. Take this Jaguar I-Pace, for example. It's been equipped with an elegant array of sensors and software, which allows it to move through the city on its own.
That's correct. The Waymo driver is a combination of custom-designed hardware and software that is responsible for performing the entire act of driving.
That was James Philbin. He's an engineering lead on the perception team at Waymo. I asked him to break down the technology for us a bit more.
The Waymo driver handles the task of driving in 3 basic steps: sense, solve, and go. It's the way we describe the highly complex process of acquiring information, processing it, and moving through the world safely.
So, what goes into all that sensing?
The sensors that the Waymo driver uses are incredibly powerful, using a combination of LiDAR, cameras, and radar. It can see up to 3 football fields in any direction and can detect sirens from emergency vehicles, which allows the Waymo driver to visualize the world around it in milliseconds to a high degree of accuracy.
Okay, sense makes sense. But what do you do with all that data?
Good question. The system calculates the predicted future behavior for each relevant agent in the scene. Then, with a strong foundation derived from artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms, the Waymo driver crunches all that data and calculates a safe route, while responding in real time to the evolving traffic environment.
If I understand correctly, this means the Waymo driver continues to learn as it goes, is trained and tested on scenarios that it's never seen before, and can differentiate safe and comfortable driving behaviors from hazardous and uncomfortable ones.
Yes, well done.
Why, thank you. The final step in the Sense, Solve, Go methodology is perhaps the most straightforward. Go.
Once the Waymo driver has determined the path to take, our advanced motion control systems allow for smooth acceleration and braking on hilly streets, or managing bumper-to-bumper traffic with safe and natural driving movements.
So it's really here, right now in cities. Not smoke and mirrors, but true autonomous driving technology. Waymo is taking what was once futuristic sci-fi and making it non-fiction. And like all great technology, all that number crunching, all that data just fades into the background. And you realize the dream of riding in a fully autonomous vehicle to your favorite dinner spot isn't just a vision of the future. It's actually happening right now.
So we have Marton here from Waymo, who heads operations and is in charge of foundational functions, so a lot of the elements of the commercial strategy, a former investment banker turned, I guess, AI evangelist now. So maybe starting with you, Marton, Waymo has been one of the pioneers in autonomous driving. What do you guys envision as the future of autonomy in logistics and transportation?
Thanks for that, Annie. And first, thank you to Dartmouth community for having me. I'm very excited to share more about Waymo and the future of autonomous transportation. As you've seen, this technology, we expect to be world-changing when it is as widely as available as everyday transportation needs are today. We're on that path now. The way we've been building this technology, and just for context, I know AI and a lot of discussion today has seemed like it came into consciousness over the last 18 months to 2 years. For us, this is something we've been working on for 14 years. The project that has become Waymo started in 2009 and has evolved since then. So one of the things that is really interesting for all of us is to see this technology evolve and AI becoming such a part of a common consciousness with the advent of LLMs and ChatGPT. But it's also a little bit strange because for us, this has been a practicality of everyday life for over a decade now for those of us who've been at Waymo for that long. The technology we've been building is really trying to, our mission ultimately is to build a technology that makes it safer and more efficient for people and goods to get where they need to go to. And therefore, our goal is to build a generalizable driver, which is the Waymo driver, that can be integrated and deployed across multiple platforms and multiple use cases. So the ride-hailing use case that you've seen now with the personal vehicle is where we are focused right now. There is a clear use case, and the most exciting part of that use case is actually getting the feedback from customers in real life, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But that doesn't stop there. This technology, as you've seen it in the video, can be put to use in amazing ways to transport long-distance transportation of goods, short-term transportation of goods, aka deliveries, and ultimately being integrated into personal car ownership, which is where most of the vehicles miles traveled are, and where the largest part of the safety equation comes into place. So that's sort of how we are thinking about building out and deploying the Waymo driver over the course of the coming years. In terms of what I'm excited about and how I think this technology really differentiates itself from many others who are playing in this field is, the experience that we have. Like I mentioned, we've been doing this for a really long time. That experience is unique in a sense that the engineers who've been working on this problem, innovating, building a lot of the algorithms and models that have set industry-defining standards in performance and safety, that is a really unique experience that Waymo has and can hardly be replicated. When people say, when companies say your people are your assets, like that is truly, the reality for us at Waymo. In addition to this, with time that we've had, we also accumulated an enormous amount of experience in the form of data and the information and knowledge we could extract from the data around driving around in various geographies under all sorts of conditions. And that accumulated experience and data set brings unique learnings that really, I think, set our foundations of what the technology is capable at Waymo. And gives me confidence in taking Waymo rides anytime I have a chance. I just came back from Phoenix yesterday, where I rode around from the moment I touched ground at the airport. For 2 days, I only took Waymos to get to where I needed to go, and it was such a fantastic way to live that experience. And for all the people who live in Phoenix, they can do this on an everyday basis, and so do the people in San Francisco, where our service is now live for those who sign up and are lucky to get off the wait list, which was up to like 80,000 people on the wait list before we opened it up, and so we're working.
We have one person here already on the wait list. So, there are lots of questions about the PhD path in AI versus sort of the business path, particularly with a lot of the Tuck students. You yourself were an investment banker before. Can you tell us your journey from investment banking to commercial AV operations?
And just as a plug for first-year MBA students, if you're interested in self-driving, we're hiring for next year MBA interns, so please check out our job listing. Maybe I'll take a little detour, and this is mostly sort of back to Tuck School and MBAs. I think people come to MBA there are people who know what they want to do and what they want to use MBAs for. A large percentage of people come and not really clear what they want to use MBA for as a pivot. I was in that camp, and the way I approached that is, let me go and do something that I know will give me really hard skills and experience that will help me kind of regardless of what I do next. And that's how I ended up in banking, where I truly, despite what you can read in the news or what some books have written about what banking is like, you really do learn a core skill set and techniques that can be invaluable in any sort of business experience later on. Long story short, after a while, I decided I didn't want to be a banker for life. This is where I really got interested into how technology and visionary technology that could change the way things work in society, with two angles that have always been sort of core to my interest, which is great technology, but also something that makes life better for humans if it comes to market and the way it envisioned. And that's how I ended up joining Google, but instead of working on ads, I went to work on Google Fiber, which I don't know if many people in the audience know or remember it. It's still around, but the vision when it was created was to really transform the network, the ISP and the telecom industry in the United States and beyond in making high-speed 1 gigabyte internet much more accessible, cheaper, and including all sorts of other wireless technologies that Google wanted to invent to make it a more seamless experience. So that was a really first foray into seeing how technology incubated inside of a innovative company like Alphabet with a really long-term vision supported by its founders could go about creating that future. After spending a few years there and Google Fiber resharpened its focus a little bit more, I always had my eye on Waymo, and this is where it goes back to not having an engineering background or not being a PhD in computer science. When you find really cool technology that you believe in, sometimes the timing mismatch between what they need and what you have to offer as a MBA, a business professional, or consultant, or former banker, that's where the trick becomes of being patient enough until the company or the project's mature enough where your skill set become useful. And for me, that was the case. I waited in the sidelines until Waymo was mature enough and the leadership needed was looking for someone where I could fit the need. And then it's just a question of hustling like good MBAs do to get in the door and find that match that works for you. So that's how I ended up at Waymo.
So Waymo has been sort of a unicorn right from Series A. Locus has gone through a different journey where I guess you started 2016, you hit 1 billion picks in 2022, 6 years in, and then you hit 2 billion picks 8 months later. So clearly on an exponential journey. Can you share a little bit more about what automation and AI was in a warehousing context 10 years ago and what it's looking right now?
All right. Do you guys shop? Who loves to shop online? Everybody shops online, yeah. Well, what happens after you press that click? Has anybody been to the warehouse? Has everybody seen how people work in the warehouse? Has anybody worked in the warehouse? You have. You have. It's tough life. The traditional warehouse, they push a cart around. They load it up with empty totes. They walk miles a day. In extreme hot weather, I was just from Dallas. You can just walk, you stay there. You don't need to move. You drip. It's like a nice sauna, natural sauna. Those conditions are bad. And these people are making minimum wages to feed their family. So that's where Locus comes in. You guys heard about Amazon? You guys heard about Kiva robots? Well, in 2012, they decided to buy Kiva Systems for $750 million. That's a lot of money. But what did they do 2 years later? They kept it for themselves. So what happened to all the other companies? They don't have any more robots. So that's where Locus Robotics was actually born, out of a company called Quiet Logistics. They use Kiva Systems robots to actually take advantage of technology to relieve that kind of labor pain and hard work. But when Amazon announced that, nope, you're not get to use our robots anymore, that's where the founder says, I am going to go find my own robots. They can't find a single robot out in the world. So out of the lab in a warehouse, we built Locus Robotics. Those robots that you saw, they're cute, but they are actually also very effective in improving the lives of the associates. So fast forward, as Annie says, fast forward 2 billion pics just a few weeks ago. That's a lot of pics. I mean, that's a lot of people buying stuff off the internet, right? Can you imagine? Now, what we found out too is that it's not just warehouse for e-commerce buildings that needs to say. We have warehouses that are picking medical supplies, surgical products that actually goes to the next day surgeries. So service level agreement for some of our customers are extremely important. Just can you imagine you're in the operating room, and guess what? You open up the package and go, oh crap, wrong size for your knee replacement. That's not good. So accuracy is extremely important. So I cover the whole labor challenge. I cover accuracy. I cover, service level agreement, customer satisfaction. How many people order something and they say, well, you're going to deliver in 1 week. It's not going to happen. You will jump ship the next time to a different one. So Amazon sets a very high standard around delivery. And the worst thing is, you can't find people to work based on the conditions. And it's not a North America issue. It's all in Europe. I've traveled pretty much to many countries in Europe. And I'm going to be traveling to Asia because it is a global problem. We have sites in Mexico as well. So, labor challenges. And the other thing, too, is safety. I'll tell you a quick story here. We were at this medical device company in South Haven, and this particular picker has to push a cart that picks medical devices. They're metal, so they can get really, really heavy, up to 700-800 pounds after they fill it with products. Well, he was turning a corner, and he banged his fingers against that edge of a shelving and broke it. He no longer could do that job. But because we had Locus Robotics shortly after that, he no longer needed to push that cart because, as you saw in the videos, he just needs to walk up to the robots, follow the instructions on the iPad, and be able to just take the product in one hand, scan it, and place it into the container. And with that, he was actually promoted to become a supervisor because he loved the robots. The reality is that because he has a job because of the robots. So, it has really changed people's lives a lot.
That's an excellent story. I think one of the things that we've heard a lot of is along the adoption curve, when we think of change management, that sort of human-robot interaction becomes critical. So any stories around, how has it been when people first get their Locus robots to 6 months later when it becomes core part of their operations?
So I remember 2016, know nothing about robots, and so I got to figure out how to get robots into warehousing. And people were skeptical. I mean, honestly, they're like, holy crap. They watch too much TVs, right? Or they heard so much of that. Robots are going to take over the world. They're going to take over my jobs, and so on. And the reality is that we have to manage the change. So, we do interesting things, right? We demonstrate to them that they're very safe around the robots. So we would basically, we kind of play with the robots a little bit. We kind of stand there, and then the robots just navigate next to us, if we don't move, and so on. Just like you saw the Waymo's car, right? They're able to navigate away from people, and so on. So it's the same. So we have to demonstrate to them to say, this is really safe. And we also want to demonstrate to them that they're here to help you, not take away your job. They're going to make your life easy because right now, you don't have to push this 700-800-pound cart from one end of the warehouse to the other end to drop off because you're done picking with them. You don't have to do that anymore. You stay within the area. The robot comes to you. You pick them. And so we have to sell the benefits. We have to get the people to know that they're your buddies, they're your friends. So what do? Simple things. Hey, let's name the robots. Let's give them a name so that they have some personality to them. And then say, well, it's Halloween, right? It's coming up. I received pictures of people putting decorations on them to give them a personality. So naming the robots, decorating the robots, as long as they don't touch the sensors, because if you touch the sensor, the robots will be kind of blind. You don't want that. But other than that, they can actually decorate robots. So we make it feel like they're part of the family. Now, if you happen to get a chance to go to locusrobotics.com, you see a lot of associates talking about how they become part of their family.
Awesome. And I imagine, human interactions is also a relevant topic in a self-driving car. And how do you sort of navigate other drivers or even pedestrians?
Yeah, I mean, that's core and bread and butter to the technology powering the Waymo driver. And that's a really interesting part of our journey. If you're just thinking about, okay, what does it take to have a computer drive a car? That problem was solved like 2013 because all you need to do is program a robot with enough sensing to follow the rules of the road and the road markings itself. That's not what's difficult about driving. What's difficult about driving is the humans on the road. And that's where self-driving technology has been taking a measured approach into coming to deployments on the public streets, because it's the technology needs to be able to predict human behavior, and not only human behavior that you and I see on an everyday basis, and we base our understanding of human behavior on our life experiences, which is anecdotal in the grand scale of humanity, and therefore the system actually needs to be able to collect sufficient information, be robust enough and safe enough to be able to drive better on average than all of humans together on a day-to-day basis, right? And that level of sophistication and complexity is why a lot of people are saying when is self-driving cars coming to Hanover, it's because we're taking a measured approach to make sure that we are certain that when we deploy the technology, it's net additive to society in that way. So predicting human behaviors is hard. And when you are driving and collecting as much experience as we do with the Waymo driver, which is the most experienced driver ever, you see things that are pretty far outside of what you would even expect in your wildest dreams. One experience I remember this was a few years back, where our software and our technology can detect and always looks for likely red light runners. But when you're on a 25 miles per hour road in a suburb of Phoenix, like, how fast do you think someone might be coming down in that intersection? Any guesses? 50? Okay. 95 miles per hour on a 25 mile per hour road in a suburb with like family homes, right? Like, that's the type of stuff you and I will rarely ever see in our lifetime of driving, but it's a type of experience that a self-driving software stack has to be prepared for, and much, much more. And the more we drive, the more you experience, more experience you have in exposure to those edge cases. And this is where a lot of the developments and today's new model and foundational models becomes even more important, because simulation in augmenting your real life experience with simulated edge cases really helps to improve our ability to make progress there.
So that your car doesn't get stuck in wet cement and then become headline articles around self-driving car failures.
Yes, that's not our company.
I know. I had to give the other example. So, since 2009, there's been significant development in sort of computer vision and sort of machine learning. And we had a comment in the previous discussion as well about kind of, hey, self-driving cars is a solvable problem as long as you can get the unit economics to work. Can you talk through a little bit of kind of the arc of that journey, and do you guys feel like sensors and the computing stack have become cheap enough and at scale enough to be commercial?
It is certainly in a place where our commercial scaling starts to make sense, right? And in the early days, where a lot of the sensors either didn't exist or didn't have performance near enough what we needed off the shelf, was a really big challenge for many of the early companies in the space. We at Waymo have taken the path of actually designing our own sensor suite to the capabilities that go way and above beyond what is usually available off market and off the shelf, because we wanted to create a technology that was capable to meeting the standards we expected to be needed for safe deployments at a commercial scale. Of course, with everything that involves hardware, the cost curve over time is the really important part. And that is something that we are now and have been engaged for a very long time at chipping away. The best way to do this is through generational leaps, right? Our current vehicle platform with the sensor suite is our 5th generation Waymo driver. It's a Jaguar I-Pace equipped with our 5th generation system, hardware system, which is a leap and beyond, both in terms of performance, but also much better unit economics than the previous generation. And you could expect our next generation hardware suite and vehicle platform to continue advancing us towards that unit economics future that we need to make this really scalable at a even much grander scale than it is today. Of course, it's a continuous improvement cycle, and we are working very closely with so many different partners across chip manufacturing, chip designers, tier 1s and OEMs, and rely on this ecosystem to make this possible together.
Awesome. And then coming to you, Jasmine, as you guys have gone from 0 to 100 million to now 2 billion picks, that is across a wide range of customers. Can you tell us, what has separated the adoption journeys of some customers who've taken the robots, done a pilot, and then sort of scaled it across enterprise, versus maybe others who kind of have organizational barriers and kind of get stuck in that pilot purgatory? Because I imagine it's a similar journey with other forms of AI as new technology comes up, whether you truly adopt it across the board or it becomes sort of some lighthouse cases that make media but don't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'll tell a quick story here. So I started in 2016, and at that time, the robots are kind of like serious robots in warehouse. But we have several penguins that decided to jump off the ice with us, right? So we call them penguins, because like, who's going to jump off the ice first? But DHL supply chain decided that they are one of our earlier adopters. That was in 2016. They signed a pilot agreement in October 2016. We went live with that medical device company in summer of 2017. When we proved the economics itself, where they were able to meet the SLAs, that's the one that you need to get surgical equipments to them the next day. They found that, wow, they can actually use it because of increased productivity. They were having a hard time hiring people, right? And they felt that, okay, this is helping improve the world, really, right? And also helping their labor challenge itself. So once that pilot was proven to be the case, we had a second pilot, which is now in a retail company, okay? What he's wearing right now. So that retail company also did a pilot and proved to be also very successful. From that onwards, DHL says, well, this is no longer a pilot. This is going to be part of our offering. So DHL globally has hundreds and hundreds of warehouses. So right now, our solution is their standard offering. So we're now able to sort of cookie cut all that. So all the implementations that we have over 30 sites right now, and we're still going. And they recently have signed a 5,000 robot deal with us. So we have a lot of work ahead of us. So basically, DHL, and they're very vocal, they're very public about what they're doing with us itself. Go check out the videos. They have a lot of videos out there featuring our Locus bots. Now, that proves to the world that we are no longer something that they have to question it works. As a result of that, a lot of companies follow suit because they paved the way for us. Right now, there's so many other companies like UPS, FedEx, Geodis, even Cardinal Health, Alpha Broder. There's a lot out there. So check it out. And we no longer really are in this pilot mode anymore because we implement a particular site called Alpha Broder. So a lot of people, T-shirts that you wear, that you print, special logos or not, that come from one of the suppliers there called Alpha Broder. Within about 15 months, we roll out 9 sites. One site's going live next week, and on average, it's about 120, 130 robots per site. So that is at scale. And you know one thing? I would quote the CEO of DHL Supply Chain, Oscar DeBark. Innovation is great, only if you can deploy at scale.
Fantastic. And both of you, your companies sort of have AI as the product, and it's very much a physical product. So how do you think of all the stakeholders impacted? I'm sure there are concerns, as you meant, about jobs displacing kind of current existing skills. How do you kind of make sure you hear all of the voices and factor that in your product design? Maybe you can start, Martin, and Jasmine.
Yeah, I'll say a few words on that. Let me just start by saying one of the things that for me is really exciting about self-driving technology or autonomous transportation are factors that are only becoming clear to publicly as we scale. So for example, safety is something we have been focused on. It's the foundation. It's one of our top core values. But how do you create the trust so that people really believe that you're actually as safe as you are or safer than if you're driving? And it's hard. You can make arguments, and this is something we've been doing by being as transparent as we can to educate everybody from policymakers, regulators, and the general public around our safety record, our safety case, and how we go about ensuring that we meet the very high standards we set for ourselves. But an even better way is let others speak on our behalf. And so we've been working with various entities over time to make sure that third parties and more neutral players can speak and attest to the safety relevant parts of the Waymo driver. Just recently, we've published, in collaboration with Safety Re, an insurance company, results of a study they collected. So they looked at around 4 million miles of autonomous driving, nobody behind the wheel of a car, and compared that to the average human claims they would expect to receive for the same amount of miles. And the result was 100% reduction in body injury claims, AKA nobody got hurt. And 75% reduction in property damage claims compared to human drivers driving over the distance. Like if you look at that data, anybody, and this was done by Swiss Re, like that's the kind of change that technology like this can bring to society as a whole. So when it comes to sort of impacts to job, so this is where it's hard to quantify how that impacts your life and my life. Hopefully it comes through lower insurance premiums, but it's the type of benefit to society that technology like this could bring, and it's quantifiable with this particular study, but there are many others. There's another aspect to self-driving technology that I'm passionate about personally is the accessibility it can bring when it becomes, the more available it becomes and the more it meets a price point that opens up its use cases, that changes the way humans could potentially live their lives. So on an accessibility front, there are lots of people who are just unable to drive or get around by themselves for whatever reason, maybe that age-related or some sort of disability. With self-driving technology, that can solve it in ways that are really hard to do even with an Uber and Lyft driver. In addition to that, the other part of it is when this technology is widely available and cheap enough, you can imagine people who can't afford to live close enough to work and who have to spend 3 to 4 hours commuting every day just to get to the location of job. If they can get into a self-driving vehicle like a Waymo early in the morning, continue resting or doing whatever they want to do during the journey because they don't have to worry about driving themselves and it's cost-effective enough, it can open up changes to the way we plan urban environments. You could live much further away from the location of your work, and it could really change accessibility of many side of how cities or dense urban environments or even less dense urban environments work today. So those are some of the aspects I think that are really exciting about this technology, and it's the future I really hope we get to see sooner than later.
Jasmine, any thoughts?
Yeah, so for the Locus story here, as I mentioned, the founder themselves needed a new robots because Amazon took their robots away. And for survival, decided that we need to build purpose-built robots. So there's a lot of robotics company out there that build cool robots. Cool is great, but they don't pay the bills, right? So we are always very hyper-focused about solving customer problems. Now, you have heard repeatedly today about relentless client-focused, and that's what we are all about. You see on the video itself, we built robots for a purpose. Building, moving pallets, case picking, each picking, and so on. So I think we start out with our DNA really a very focused and purpose-built automation via robots. But it's not just the robots, it's also the applications that come with it. I have been in the technology many years. And one thing, this particular one was very intriguing, but also challenging. It's the frontier, but it weaves a lot of different things that goes into making this work. It's not just the tech, it's about the people. Because you can have the coolest tech, but if people don't use it, it's not going to be any use. If it doesn't solve a problem, it still wouldn't be used. So the other thing I would add around customer focus, the entire company is very customer-first culture. Not just customer success, we are frontline, but the root of our success really is across the board. Whether you are in operation preparing a robot to be shipped, whether in finance trying to collect the money, whether you're in engineering, we're all there together as a company focusing on solving that problem for the customers. So as a result, when we went into it in 2006, starting in 2016, like I said, the customers don't know what the robots can do for them. We don't really know fully how we can optimize and how we can actually solve their problems through robots and business applications. So we started out with the culture of a voice of a customer. It's so important that when we hear the voice of the customers, we in customer success will bring it forth to our engineering organization. We have constant weekly feedback about this is what we heard, what can we do for our customer? Like I say, cool robots are good, but they don't really pay the bills. So effectively, voice of the customer, purpose-built, and you mentioned around, let the customers sell the stories. We built a lot of stories around how our solutions help improve lives. Not just the associates' lives that are pushing, but the operators, the supervisors, because we empower them with data to be able to run the operations, right? And the next gen thing where we're going to use Gen AI and everything to improve a lot of aspects about running operations. So the other thing I would also call out to is we don't sell the robots. We have a program called Robot as a Service. So it's actually an OpEx model, not a CapEx model. You guys are all MBA students, right? You know what OpEx and CapEx is. Now, what is really good about that is there's really no upfront investments of millions of dollars to actually own the robots. We took care of everything. We have one-time implementation fee, and then after that, you RaaS it, Robot as a Service. So you pay a fee on a monthly basis of the robot that you use, really minimizing the need to come up with millions of dollars to buy the robots. Okay, so that's one thing that's unique about Locus, is that we actually are the pioneer in Robot as a Service, which we thought is pretty cool, you know, RaaS, anyways.
Yeah, can make everything as a service these days.
Yeah,
so
we have transportation as a service.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
it
So
works.
I think we have time for a few questions from the audience. We'll let Patrick pick.
Thank you both for sharing. This question is for Martin. And I think one of the themes that emerged from the past speakers is this idea that AI should augment and not replace. And to Jasmine's kind of example of the associate kind of upskilling and becoming a warehouse kind of supervisor. Martin, what is your thought on kind of the implications of Waymo at scale and how that's going to affect the gig economy? And I don't see any, Uber drivers becoming Waymo engineers anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, great question. It's definitely an important consideration for sure. I think where we are focused on is the safety aspects and ultimately some of the other things I talked about. And building a technology that transforms mobility as we know it. The goal, if we succeed, is to create mobility that's better than a human-driven transportation world, whether that's a gig driver, a taxi driver, or you yourself. Our goal is to do it better and more cost-effectively over the long term than any human can do. So what it does to gig economy workers, the simple answer in my mind is to offer them, the opportunity to find better or higher value-added occupations, or that could be empowered by Waymo if it gives them mobility even cheaper than they had before. It's a little bit the same situation where Uber and Lyft came in and disrupted the regular taxi service. All the way back, horses were disrupted by motor vehicles. So it's the natural evolution, in my mind, a little bit of how technology can really enable society as a whole.
Thanks so much for sharing what you're working on. I think you're businesses are solving incredible customer needs. What are some other applications that we might not be thinking about where customer needs can be improved with AI? Question for all of you. If
Any
you weren't
startup ideas, if you guys took...
Sorry, what was the question?
Any other applications that you see of AI solving customer needs outside of what Locus and Waymo are already doing?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time thinking about our own
Yeah.
business. Yeah, so.
I can talk a little bit about what we are actually doing in terms of, from a Locus perspective, though, because one thing about, like especially Gen AI here, right? We hear a lot about data, and in Locus itself, we generate huge amount of data, right? Whether it's the robots that is moving around, data, all the application aspects of, the profile itself. What we are actually working on is to leverage LLM and the technology around Gen AI is to make it easier for the operators to be able to optimize the site better. So there is a lot of aspects around that. You think about warehouse over 1 million square foot. Now I always try to do this math, like how many football fields is in 1 million square foot? Nobody has the answer. I don't know the answer. But anyways, but I should ask ChatGPT. The aspects around that is that some of our customers have 1 million square foot building. One of them actually has 1.2. They have 1.3 million different SKUs. 1.3 million SKUs in 1.2 million square foot. Now, a lot of these things are rooted in data and in understanding the profile of what you guys buy, and therefore slotting the products accordingly as to how we actually will slot it. Different theories around, well, if people buy, if it's a female who buy, they tend to buy all female things, or maybe also with kids. If it's male, it typically is just for themselves. Okay, so based on that kind of profile information, I believe that AI can actually help a lot of these operators maximize the space and also reduce the time to pick what they need to pick. And those are the things that we are looking in further optimization using AI to do.
Yeah, I think to add, what you also heard today was the need to become sort of an expert in a functional area to uncover what those customer problems might be. It is very hard to sit in sort of broad generalizations and speculate what the core challenge of someone running a warehouse or a fulfillment facility or a manufacturing line might be. I think a good place to start the exercise might be to think through what are you using AI or automation for, right? Is it sort of enhancing labor? Is it hopefully shifting labor away from doing jobs that aren't really high quality jobs, that are high safety issue jobs and low paying jobs? And so there are multiple sort of end markets, whether it's agriculture, mining, sort of logistics, transportation, that have those core megatrends. But then the answer is dive deeper into that and find those sort of niches that the operators are actually facing rather than sort of painting with a very broad stroke.
Right, goes back to what's the problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah.
I have a question on, I know you've touched upon this earlier, but robotics as service is what you do, it's your core value proposition. But with all that data that you have, do you also diversify into maybe helping all these warehouses with layout optimizations, shelving optimizations? I mean, I'm just curious to know if that's something you do.
Yeah, so for customer success, I didn't really talk about what we actually do. Like, you see the results of it, but effectively, my team actually collaborates a lot with the warehouse operator, and we actually do design. We do CAD drawing of how the changes are so that we can actually optimize everything. So we do that, and honestly, even to date, people still, in the beginning, for one side, they tend to be a little bit like, what do I get out of it? So warehouses, they're all similar, but they're not the same. Everybody has different workflows, right? So the workflow in one building may be different from another because they pick different products. They have different customer profiles. They ship differently. As a result, our software stack allow us to be flexible to do that. But the aspects around that is the human aspects that basically identify what is the workflow, what is the problem they're trying to solve, and then we can configure. So yes, to your questions, we actually do that. And even after we go live, we continuously improve that. It's a continuous improvement itself because you can't just do one big bang. And software engineering, if you do let's design, then we code, then we test, it could take 2 years, right? But it's important that you iterate through because they want to see the results. Now, the one thing about what we do, RAS, is that it's good, but it also has to have ROI, the return on investment for that. Okay, they're not going to say, well, robots are cool, but they're not going to spend the money if it's cool and they don't actually get some gain out of it. So it's an iterative process itself. And in customer success at Locus, we hold their hands in the beginning to help them get to say. Then after that, we really partner with them on a very continuous basis. And that's how we can actually land and expand from one site to 30, 40, 50 sites itself, because it's through all this learning itself. Now, the other thing, too, about robotics, too, it's still very young, right? It's still very young. We talk about the LiDAR and the safeties and the 3D cameras and everything. We fuse all this data itself. Really, thanks to autonomous driving itself, they're able to actually bring all those things, the prices down, resulting in actually more sophisticated robots and also, being cheaper so that we can actually make it even more available to the general public.
Hi. I have a request and a question. The request is to Martin, if you have videos of road rage drivers coming up to Waymo cars, you should be publishing that. That'll be fun. But the question is, how do you share data with other people in the ecosystem? For example, you spoke about overspeeding in a particular location. So do you share data of what your cars observe with the cities or other vehicle manufacturers or other people in the ecosystem? And in Locus's case, for example, does the pricing of products get impacted based on how many SKUs are left in the warehouse and stuff like that, the supply chain and things like that? Do you share data, and then are the companies that are working with you in the ecosystem, are they able to consume that data? Are you able to integrate with them seamlessly? Is a curious question.
Maybe I'll tackle it first. We have a very experienced team who's focused on interacting with cities, municipalities, policymakers, and regulators, and they're in constant dialogue with discussing what are the information sharing requirements and needs of those actors. And then, of course, we work with them to make that happen. Of course, there is a real element of privacy here at play. Like, we all remember the Google mapping cars and the privacy related to them. And Waymo collects tons of information on a continuous basis, but we are very conscious and have very robust rules and internal processes to preserve privacy all around. Now, of course, we'll work with law enforcement and anybody else who has legitimate needs for information sharing that is in the best interest of the public. But I see in the future, obviously more opportunities to do this when we're at scale to help optimize transportation across an entire city, because we will have perfect information at some point when we have scale enough on a continuous basis. But on the other hand, and this goes back to maybe some of the earlier conversations today, we also are very conscious that a lot of what we do happens behind closed walls as a private company, profit-driven. And the innovation, we want to make sure that some of that seeds the future scientists and engineers and seeds the know-how beyond just what Waymo. So we have this data set, the open data set we publish, which represents and provides researchers, and anybody who's interested in it, with information, like sensor information we collected through interesting interactions throughout the experience of driving, and we make that raw data available for researchers to start continuing to evolve and build on that data set new technologies. And so we try to foster information sharing, not just from the angle you were asking about, but also with fostering the continuing evolution of the researchers who will produce great next hires for Waymo in the future, or will go on founding really interesting products and startups themselves. So we see that as a continuous future cycle, and that's how it comes into play on the sharing front.
So for Locus, the warehouse data belongs to the warehouse themselves. When we started the process, because our business is built on customers on a RES and ROI perspective, we started the process using data to create what we call a concept of operations. Effectively, what the concept of operations determined, based on their profile, based on their SLAs and everything, size of the building that they have, number of SKUs that they have, we actually would create something to say, okay, this is what you need in terms of the number of robots. And then we also calculate for them in terms of what their ROI looks like. And typically, their ROI is in terms of months, not years. And then, we then implement it. We are always using data to measure. If you don't measure, you cannot improve, right? So we always measure that. We provide them a lot of dashboards for them to be able to visualize how they're operating with the robots, and also the performance of the associates, so that they can understand how this associates working with the robots. Remember, they're collaborative robots. The robots don't just pick by themselves. It augments what they are doing. So a lot of dashboards provide the data so that they can actually visualize it, they can actually improve their operations. We provide tools as well, using data to show them how they can actually optimize the way they run their operations. So data is not public, it is there. The other thing that the data actually helps too is comparison from site to site, right? A lot of our customers don't have just one warehouse. They have hundreds of warehouses. And typically, the executives themselves have visibility into the comparison of the warehouses. Sometimes it's good because you give them a little bit of a friendly competition. Humans love to compete, so it's actually all good. So that's how we actually use data to assist, the customers to be more effective and more efficient.
There are some interesting business models that people have built purely out of not monetizing the technology, but monetizing the data that technology accesses. So one example is Bus Patrol, which is another startup. It's basically a monitoring system for school buses. And the way they monetize is they don't charge the school system. They basically give information for traffic violations to the local city, and they get a share of it. So again, it's a different way of driving adoption to a new computer vision-based tech.
Thank you so much. My question is for Marton. So as Jasmine said that in general, robotics is relatively new, as is autonomous driving. I was wondering if you have any insight into what your competitors are doing and how you plan on staying ahead of the curve.
I have great respect for anybody who's trying to tackle this space, because I know most of them are motivated by the same things we are. I can't comment on behalf of the company on this, but I would say personally that for me, I'm not really worried about what others are doing. We're mostly just focusing on doubling down on achieving our own goals and staying ahead of the game. Like I mentioned before, it gives me comfort, and this is why I'm still very excited about Waymo's future. The experience we've accumulated over the years, the people we have, our co-CEO Dimitri has been there since 2009, making him one of the most experienced people on this planet, and being our co-CEO to lead this company, and the experience that comes with that. And just the experience and data we've accumulated, I think gives us that advantage, I would think, that makes us believe we are the foremost autonomous driving company out there. Now, we are also lucky and fortunate that investors believe the same pitch that I just gave you, and so we have the capital to continue building and commercializing this business, and profitability will help us continue to grow that commercial scale. That would be my take on it.
I think that's a good place to end it. It's been a wonderful session today, and we want to thank you for really helping us better understand yet another dimension of kind of what's going on in this space, and a really important one, and one with a lot of growth in the future, but also a lot of progress that's been made. I think that was clear from what was shared today. So I want to thank you again for today's session.
I just want to say thank you for inviting me here, Patrick and Ani. You guys have a beautiful campus, and you just can't help by just staring outside there. It's those beautiful trees out there. So thanks for having me here as well. Thank you.
As we kind of wrap up, I think there's a lot that happened today, a lot of great content. Making this possible is not something that is all that easy, and we have a couple folks we just really want to highlight in the back here. So Greg and Dan have been back here running the show for us. Huge round of applause. We've got some folks you'll notice from our amazing dining services here at Tuck, from the Burn folks over there. If we could give them a huge round of applause, keeping us well fed. And we have a lot of teams here. So internally, we worked closely with folks like George Sabenko and Don Castle here, there was folks at Thayer and Peter Chin, and we had folks across campus from this morning, and the team that was kind of multidisciplinary. Lamar Bunce, who is the Chief Transformation Officer here at Dartmouth, also a huge advocate, as well as the leadership of the school here at Tuck. Dean Matt Slaughter, who delivered the opening remarks, and Associate Dean Joe Hall, both have been incredibly strong leaders in adapting the education here to take advantage of the opportunities and to help students learn. And I think there's a lot of good energy and that allows things like this to happen when you have that kind of leadership. So we want to thank them as well. Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. That just helped kind of make this happen from our communications team and the facilities teams here. Last but not least, the person who, this is definitely not possible without. Carolyn, do you want to stand up, please? Carolyn is the reason all of this can happen, because I can't do all of these things, and definitely not the more detailed work that she does so well, and has really pulled this all together from start to finish with me as a great partner in the center. So I just want to thank you. And thank you all to you for asking amazing questions, for engaging across the day, for really kind of coming with an idea that you want to learn from what's going on here. I think that's one of the resounding themes we've heard across the day is, look, we need to engage, we need to learn, we need to be open-minded, we need to ask really tough questions. In the center, our mission talks a lot about asking tough questions to make better decisions as a foundation of kind of what we do in the Center for Digital Strategies. And I think it's a really supportive sessions across the day that support how much we should be asking tough questions. And I want to thank you all for also asking those tough questions across the day. So really appreciate everyone's time and energy, and for the folks on Zoom as well. Really glad that you were able to join us. Yes. Awesome. We love our alumni here at Dartmouth and Tuck and everywhere across the school. So we, look forward to having you again. And please check out events on the calendar too for things in the future. A lot of the events that we do, for example, in the center, we'd welcome you joining us. So, all right, that's a wrap, everybody. Thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend.